Coach, what's your thoughts on knees over toes guy method? That's from Bernardo Santos. I think knees over toes. Here's the thing, okay? I'm going to keep this really brief. You get an MMA fighter gets so much knees over toes action already. When you're sprinting, when you're jumping, when you're landing, when you're knee sliding through the guard, when you're playing guard, when you're kickboxing, you're getting so much knees over toe action. So your patella is already strengthened. Your tendons are strengthened. You're doing wrestling, for God's sakes. People are pulling on your joints all day long. When you go to the weight room, in my opinion, don't put any stress on the tendons. Now it's about developing strength and power. Strength, power, endurance. I want to put the weight on my muscles and my bones. If I do that, bones and muscles regenerate. Tendons have a limited lifespan. Yes, they regenerate, but not to the same degree. Not to the same degree. Bones recover. Bones do well under stress. Bones get stronger under stress. Muscles get stronger under stress. Tendons, yes, but tendons, you can overdo it. You don't want to. You want to slowly. He'll even admit that to you. He says, "Look, I gradually increased the stress on the tendons over time. It took me many years to build tendons this strong." Okay, great, brilliant. However, if you're wrestling, kickboxing, you're getting every time you kick the bag, boom! Like you're building your tendons, your muscles, and your bone. The bones and muscles can take a greater volume, a much greater volume. How many times did you hear anybody break their bone? Like so rare. Like not in a submission, like doing a double leg. Oh, and I broke my bone. It's so rare. It's very rare. Bones don't break that easily. How many times have you heard somebody tear a muscle in practice? It does happen, but it's much easier fixed muscle tear. Much easier. But tearing tendons is common. Why? You put stress on the mat and on them in your sport. Then you go put in the weight room and you put more stress on them. They never get a chance to recover. We have a lot of overuse injury. Okay, so let's say you're sitting behind a desk all day and you do knees over toes, you're going to feel better. Why? You're exercising. It's not the knees over toes program per se. Any program will make you feel better. Any program will strengthen your joints. Any program, literally any program. However, I don't do knees over toes for high reps and I don't do it under load. Why? Because I have that in practice. Now people are going to tell me, Coach, but I'm in these positions when I wrestle, so shouldn't I do them in the weight room? Okay, with that logic, why don't you squat with a rounded back? When you're wrestling, your back is rounded. When you're boxing, your shoulders are rounded and your neck is down. Why don't you hunch up when you do squats? We know why. Because everybody who's ever done it that way had a bad back. No world champion ever in lifting, ever lifted with a rounded back. Never. Never. Those guys with rounded backs never made it to the higher weights. Never. If you put a load consistently and go knees over toes consistently, you will overuse your tendons, in my opinion. And also, when you go knees over toes, there's a lot of complicated things to this. It's okay to go knees over toes after you've bent at the hips. I don't want to get into this because it's quite long, but it's hips first, then knees. When you do it correctly, when you squat correctly, like I show in the Strong and Stable series, you get 1,000% more torque in the hips. That's where you want to develop, guys. Do you want to develop your knees or do you want to develop your hips? It's hips. The best athletes have the best hips. Hips are a prime mover. Knees are not a prime mover. Usain Bolt doesn't run fast because he has incredible knees. He runs fast because he has incredible hips. Now, knees are important, but they're not the engine. The engine of your body is your hips. The more explosive the hips, the more explosive you are.